Hello and welcome to the third in the series of tutorials with me, Velen. This is an advanced Hordes.io Mage tutorial. In today's video, we will be covering the character page and 1x bot, including all the concepts surrounding that. Secondly, we will cover Gloom Fury and the ways to optimize your setup to get 100% DPS output possible. Finally, we will be covering Arena, its purposes, how to get medals, and finally what those are used for in charms. So let's start with the character page. This is something that you would see generated by 1x bot. As you can see on the right hand side, it differs from your normal character screen. Firstly, you see EHP, followed by DPS, which really stands for EDPS, same thing for burst, and then finally build score. So, to address the first one, EHP, this stands for effective health points. On screen, you can see the formula to calculate it. You do not need to pay attention to this unless you're really into it. Basically, it is increased by having your health points as high as possible, your defense as high as possible, and your block as high as possible. A good benchmark to reach is 9,000 EHP. The next important stat to note is EDPS, or just DPS as displayed in the character screen. The best multipliers for this are your bloodline, and then critical chance, haste, and finally min or max damage. This is a way in order to measure how much damage per second you would do under specific circumstances. A good benchmark to reach for this is thirdly is E-burst, or just burst as shown on the character screen. You will note with the formula on screen that there is no haste involved. This means that you just need to build bloodline, crit, and min-max in order to improve this stat. Again, a good baseline to reach is about 470 E-burst. Ideally, you would have something resembling this kind of setup. Just over 9,000 EHP, about 600 EDPS, and about 490 burst. This all accumulates and is modified into build score at the bottom. A really good build score is about 1,006, a moderate build score is 1,000, and a decent build score is about 990. So now using this newfound knowledge, we're going to maximize our EDPS in our setup for Gloom Fury. I will take you through the optimizations that I take in order to set these records. Firstly, we will look at the character screen. You can see this on the left-hand side of the two windows open, and the min and max damage is as high as possible, the critical chance is as high as possible, and the haste is as high as possible. Then, looking onto the right-hand side of the page, is the skill setup required in order to hit the maximum DPS possible. My first top tip to optimizing your DPS is to click Apply Skills as late as possible. This is within at least 7 seconds before the boss fight starts. The reasoning behind this is that the GCD on instabolts is significantly longer than after normal casting bolts. A quick and important side note, the following rotations only work when the server's dynamic tick rate is at 0.85 seconds per GCD. So approximately half a second before the boss starts, you're going to want to cast Skull, followed by Hypo, followed by Chilling, etc., as you can see on the opening rotation on screen. It's important that you use Skull before Hypo to include the last Chilling in the opening of the rotation. This is highly optimized and only works under specific circumstances with max buffs and Canine Hound. Below that are my top tips on what you need to do in order to maintain high DPS. This only produces record-breaking DPS on about 60-second runs. There's a second peak at around 88 seconds. If you do have any specific questions relating to this rotation, feel free to message at VelenGreyMain on Discord. So finally, we will be addressing Arena. As you can see, there are different cosmetic features that you can gain from doing Arena. The amount of rating required for each one is written below the color of it. If you are unbothered by this cosmetic feature, Arena also serves a very vital and important role in gaining charms. So what are charms? Well, simply put, charms are an extra skill to buff your character. This one is the first one I suggest you get, called Tattooed Skull. It is effectively the damage charm. I'm going to rattle through the other charms really quickly, and if you want to have a look at the slides in more detail, do check the video's description. Next we have Little Bell. This has great utility in PvP, and I highly recommend it as your second charm. After that, we have Ship's Pennant. This is great for increasing your DPS on Gloom Fury and is all round a useful movement skill. Penultimately, we have Hardened Egg. This is a really useful defensive skill, mitigating a lot of damage that you would otherwise take. The fifth and final charm is Blue Marble. I would not particularly concern yourself with getting this charm for a while. It only has specialist uses. So to summarize, I may make another video in more detail on how to use the 1x bot and what it is, but I have at least covered the main concepts it introduces, followed by the orb rotation in Gloom Fury, and then finally the purpose of. I hope you found today's video very informative, and I may be making an expert tutorial in the future, so do look out for it. Many thanks and bye bye.